putting out there, driving like.
Yeah, they get one strike.
Yeah.
They get one.
I guess we'll wait a little while.
This will be a quickie here today.
Oh, yeah.
Are we on public yet?
I think so. We're live?
Okay, I'll wait. I have something that's interesting, just something in the news, but I won't say it right now.
We'll wait till later. Trudeau stepped down.
No, it's nothing to do with that. It's,
Wait for a second.
It's in your dreams.
we don't have a public hearing, so we can wait. I'd say wait a minute or two and
Okay.
give her a chance to.
We'll just, Councillor Susan got she got a phone call just before the meeting. We'll give her a few minutes to rejoin us.
Thanks for coming there.
Yeah.
Ready to adjourn?
Looking for a motion to adjourn?
We've already excused you for next month. We're good. So.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome here, and at this time I'd like to give the opening to Councillor Jake Hiebert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we continue this period of COVID restrictions and the inability to travel, I again thought it good and mentally healthy to look up some pictures of the past, pictures of when we were able to travel and enjoy visiting different parts of this planet. As all of us view such photos, our brains go into memory mode as we recall those experiences, experiences that have helped us to shape our thoughts of who God is and the wonderful world He created for us to enjoy. In March of this year, my opening was about the first part of our trip we took to England at the end of July and the beginning of August of 2019. We had seen London, attending a wedding of a nephew, and now it was time to move on and see more of Europe. On August 7th, we flew from Gatwick to Paris with an airline by the name of EasyJet. Having traveled a fair bit over the years, this was an airline that impressed me. It was easy to drop off your luggage off at night before, easy boarding, and a nice plane and a very cordial staff. Charles de Gaulle Airport is huge. There are 3 terminals and 7 sub-terminals for the passengers. The 50-minute taxi ride landed us at our hotel in downtown Paris. The St. James Albany Paris Hotel was near the city centre, 2 blocks from the Louvre Museum and a couple of blocks from the Seine River. Paris is a romantic city with lots to do in the daytime and even more to do at night. The Louvre is the world's largest art museum and a historic monument in Paris. France is best known for being the home of the Mona Lisa, which is best known for the home of Mona Lisa. Approximately 38,000 objects from prehistory to the 21st century are exhibited over an area of 782,000 square feet. The Louvre still tops the list of most visited art museums in the world. It contains more than 380,000 objects and displays 35,000 works of art, paintings, drawings, and archaeological finds. I was taken aback by the large wall paintings, including the time and effort expended to making them so remarkable. I mean, these paintings, some of them I think were like 40, 50 feet long and, I don't know, 15 feet high. Just absolutely remarkable. Again, in order to see the city, the double-decker hop-on, hop-off buses were fabulous, as we saw many of the important sites such as the Eiffel Tower. We passed by the noted Notre Dame Cathedral, which caught fire 4.5 months prior to us visiting Paris. And it's such a historic monument. It was sad to see it devastated by the fire. Taking a romantic tour on a dinner cruise on the Seine River was all it was expected to be and more. Slowly meandering down the river and seeing Paris lit up at night is spectacular. Seeing the Eiffel Tower lit up at night from the boat, it was gorgeous. 2 days later, it was off to Munich with Lufthansa Airlines. At Munich Airport, we rented a BMW 520 touring wagon. The only reason I mention the name of the car is probably the last time I'll ever be in one. It was a nice car. We drove directly to Dachau concentration camp, which is 16 kilometers north of Munich. Dachau was the first Nazi concentration camp in Germany, established in 1933. It eventually evolved into a death camp where countless thousands of Jews died from malnutrition, disease, and overwork, or executed. To say the least, it was very somber time that we spent there as we saw firsthand the buildings, the prisoners, where the prisoners were housed, and eventually the buildings where they were murdered. That night and the next couple of days were spent in Füssen, Germany. Again, we reserved a lovely setting on the lake. This area is noted for its old castles, including the famous Neuschwanstein Castle. Traveling the highways in Europe was enjoyable. Again, most of the highways are bordered with trees or walls, so that in order to enjoy the countryside, you need to leave the highway and travel on smaller roadways. This is the same as we encountered in England. No doubt this is to avoid people paying attention to the scenery and not to the road as they're traveling 140 kilometers an hour plus. Due to time restraints, we did not take time to travel into Switzerland. We passed by. From Füssen, we drove through Austria, including Salzburg. That's the birthplace of Mozart. We spent a couple of days downtown taking in the history, including standing beside and getting a photograph taken beside Mozart's house. Our hotel was called the Melanie, situated in a city called Walls. The owners and the place were fabulous. Further down the road was Innsbruck, Austria, a beautiful city nestled in the mountain known for hosting the 1964 Olympics. Unfortunately, there was a lot of fog when we were traveling those highways, rain clouds, and we didn't see much of the majestic Alps. Our destination point was Vienna. What a good time we had there. Our hotel was a block from the Schönborn Castle, which was originally the home of the Emperor of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Again, traveling on the tram every day to downtown area was a breeze. I absolutely enjoyed the food in Germany and Austria and visiting the quaint restaurants with their authentic foods. Many of the places had eating courts on the streets, which was a wonderful experience. I think it even made the food taste tastier. The downtown streets were cobblestone. No vehicles were allowed, but rather than vehicles, they were horse-drawn carriages. During our stay in Vienna, I was again amazed at the architecture of the old buildings, including the magnificent churches. In my March presentation, I mentioned the wonderful breakfasts that were included in our hotels in England. That was true for all of our hotels in Paris, Germany, and Austria as well. The euro, which is the currency there, was approximately 1.5 Canadian dollars to 1 euro. Being able to converse in High German was an asset, although many of the business people were very fluent in English. As always, all good things must come to an end. On August 16, we flew back to Gatwick on EasyJet and the next day back to Winnipeg. Again, making the trip a wonderful memory, I credit my lovely wife and my in-laws, Robin and Marcia. My sister-in-law did a good job of keeping me in check, so I didn't move too fast and miss seeing everything that there was to see. Robin is a history buff, gracefully educated us and made the things come alive. I keep repeating myself, but I have to say, Ray is the best traveling companion. If the future allows, I would love to return to Vienna. Using Vienna as a base or a central point within 1 or 2 or 3 hours, one could visit Hungary, Poland, Croatia, Italy, and many other countries. I might even backtrack 4 hours and spend time in Switzerland. Oh well, That's for another day.
Thank you, Councillor Hiebert. You are completely right. Fond memories like that can help us get out of just a mental funk, you know, and I think it's good to bring back good memories through looking at pictures. So thank you very much for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
Council, we have the agenda in front of us. We are looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Hiebert, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments?
No comments.
And we'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Council, we have the minutes of May 4th, 2021, the regular council meeting in front of us. It starts on page 1. We've all had opportunity to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Seaman, second by Councillor Hiebert. Any comments?
Any further?
Okay. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. There's no public hearing, no delegation. We'll move to 8A, reports and recommendations of city manager. This is referring to a land purchase of 310 Hanover. Starts on page 3 on our package. Mr. Wargadine, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this item is relating to an offer to purchase for the consideration of the purchase of the property at 310 Hanover Street in Steinbach. This piece of land, as well as many others, has been part of a long-term acquisition strategy of the city for a variety of land parcels in the area to acquire them for future purposes. Recommendation is that City Council approve the purchase of 310 Hanover Street from Elmer Henry Taves for $475,000 with a possession date of August 31st, 2021, subject to the assignment of the purchase from Southeast Event Center, Inc. to the City of Steinbach. As you'll notice, on the offer to purchase, it has been completed by Southeast Event Center, Inc. There is a copy of an assignment agreement. This is a representative copy. However, I can report that signatures from SEC Inc. have been provided on the assignment agreement, and which will also require city signature. So recommendation, as I mentioned, was for council to approve the purchase.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wargadine. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion to approve the purchase.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Penner? Go ahead, Councillor Swagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As is noted here, the city has been purchasing properties in the downtown area for over 25 years. This has been a long-term strategy of the city. And back when previous councils started doing this, it wasn't clear exactly what was going to go there. But previous councils had the foresight to recognize that there was significant potential for the city to have a facility downtown if we had sufficient land to purchase. Now, of course, we know what we're planning to build downtown, the Southeast Event Center. 310 Hanover Street is another piece of the puzzle that we need to acquire. And so it makes sense for us to approve this, and so that way we can make sure that that we're prepared to go ahead with this center once funding is in place.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Penner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not much to say other than this really shows our dedication to moving this project, the Southeast Event Center, forward, being as prepared as possible to act as soon as the funding does come in. So as soon as that funding comes in, we can continue the process diligently with having the land, as much land acquired as is needed. So that is why we need to go forward with this purchase.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything closing?
Nope.
Yes, council, this is the last piece of land that we need in order to build the event center. And I think it's a really good move in order to do this. And as Councillor Swagstra said, this has been going on for decades with vision to redevelop the downtown and for vision for recreation. And I think this is a great project, and I'm really looking forward to it. And you know, as we are waiting for to hear any news from the other higher levels of government as far as the funding goes, there's jobs we need to do, and amassing this land and doing design work, that's all part of those, the things we need to do. And this is one more thing we can check off our list of things to get done before we can hopefully hear the funding comes through. So council, I will ask for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We'll move to 9A, that is accounts payable. It's in the back of the book. Again, we've all had a chance to review, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments?
Nothing further.
Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 9B, we have the financial statements ending January 31st, 2021, in the back of the book. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hiebert, second by Councillor Hiebert. Any comments?
No comment.
Okay. Anything further?
Nothing further.
Okay. Anything further, council? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 9C, we have the financial statements ending February 28th, 2021. Back of the book. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hiebert, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments?
Nothing further.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. And we have one more financial statements. This is 9D, financial statements ending March 31st, 2021. Again, back of the book, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hiebert, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We move down to 9E. This is 2020 reserve transfers. Starts on page 13. Mr. Workentine, this is standard practice, transferring money from general operating to reserves, but just wondered if there's any highlights you'd want to add on to, or any substantial transfers that you'd like to mention.
Yes, I would, Mr. Mayor. This, as you mentioned, is a schedule that is presented to council on an annual basis. It does represent a summary of a variety of reserve transfers, either from the two operating funds that the city has to the particular reserve funds, or alternatively from the specific reserve funds to the operating funds, to be able to fund projects or programs that council has approved in its annual financial plan. Probably some items that I'd like to highlight in the first section that you see on page 13. At the top of that first section, you see an amount of $947,000 and some change that was transferred from the general operating fund to the capital development reserve. This represents a grant that was received by the city of Steinbach in 2020 with respect to additional support funding for a variety of things, particularly related to COVID impacts, called the Federal Safe Start Funding Program. Rather than spend it on specific programs, direction from council at the time was to put that into the city's capital development reserve fund so that the city had these funds available for future use at such time as council decided a program was appropriate. Then moving a little bit further down, about 5 lines, you'll see there's also another transfer of $625,000, again, to the capital development reserve. This is an amount in combination with an amount further down that section. Right at the bottom, you see an amount for $400,000. The city's general operating reserve fund did identify some surplus revenues in 2020, and in order to allocate those surplus revenues to a specific reserve fund for future use, those two amounts totaling just over $1 million were or are being recommended to be transferred to both the capital development reserve and the city's land and building reserve, again, for future purposes that council can designate in future budget years. And then finally, the next section down, you'll see that there was also a transfer from the city's utility operating fund to the utility replacement reserve in the amount of $370,000. Similarly, that amount was not originally budgeted in the city's 2020 financial plan. That represents surplus revenues that utility generated during the year. And again, those surplus revenues are being allocated to the replacement reserve fund to be used for future project costs that may occur in 2021 and beyond. Generally, all the other items that are either transfers in or transfers out, they represent to a large degree budgeted items that were already identified in the 2020 capital plan in the year just completed, or it follows the longstanding practice where revenues that are generated from specific operations or functions or representing particular projects or programs that were not fully spent in the year, those are being forwarded to a reserve fund so that they're allocated for these projects to be completed in the future year. From an overall perspective, this is just a summary report, but it is recommended that Council adopt this schedule as provided in the recommendation on page 14.
Thank you, Mr. Wargentine. Okay, Council, we're looking for a motion to adopt these transfers. Councillor Swagstra,
Make the motion to approve the transfers.
second by Councillor Susan Penner. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As is noted by yourself and by the city manager, this is something that we do every year. When we know the funds that we have at the end of the year, we have the transfers that take place both into operating, into the different reserves and also from the reserves designating for specific projects. In particular here, we are putting significant funds into the capital development reserve. This is one of our most important reserves because we use the capital development reserve to fund major capital projects, which we have many of in the city. And so I think it's very wise that we're putting the federal grant funds into the capital development reserve. That gives us significant flexibility for when we identify the project that we want it to go towards, that we're able to access that. Similarly, when we have reserve funds, it makes sense to put some of that into the capital development reserve. I'll highlight as well that we are continuing, as has been our practice for many years, of putting, in this case, $1.2 million into our recreation reserve. We're continuing to build that up because, of course, we're going to need that for our Southeast Events Center project because that's an important reserve for that. And so I think this is the responsible thing to do. We know that there are significant projects coming up because we've been doing significant projects up until now. And so by making sure that we have maximum funds available, as flexible as possible for those major projects, that's the right way to go. So I think it makes sense for us to do these transfers.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Penner? Anything further of Council? Anything in closing? Well, Council, I do agree with Councillor Swagstra in his comments, and I think these are very healthy transfers that are being made into the reserves. And as we heard today, a meeting with our auditor, it's very important to keep our reserves in good health. And I think we're doing that by doing these transfers. So we'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, Council, 9F, we've got building permits for April 2021. It's on page 15. We've had a great year, or a great month, sorry. It is a great year, but it was a really good month. Just looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hiebert. Go ahead, Councillor Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you said, a fantastic month again, and a lot of people looking to be enjoying their outdoors with pools and decks. But a major highlight is Freightliner. If you've been traveling on North Highway 12, the new Freightliner building coming to Steinbach, which is going to add multiple jobs, and these are these small to medium-sized businesses, and with their future plans of future growth yet too, even being a larger employer. But these are the businesses that we've been all talking about wanting to attract, of the mid-income range employers that employ, 30, 40, 50 families at a time. So it's great to see that coming up, and welcome them to the community, as well as the 17 new family dwelling units that are being added this month. So those are all more families that are going to be some of our neighbors.
Thank you. Anything further?
Again, it's nice to see the confidence that businesses are placing in Steinbach as they advance these permits. The big one there I see is Superstore at $1.3 million. So it's nice to see that existing companies and businesses in town have this confidence that it's not only new businesses.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything in closing? Yes, council, I agree with the comments that were said. Yes, Superstore, $1.3 million, that's a renovation. Obviously, business is going well for them in our community, and they see fit to reinvest. We've had numerous single-family dwellings. Highlight, though, there's two highlights. We've got on Woodhaven Avenue, a fourplex and a fiveplex being built, those totaling around the $1.4 million in multifamily. Again, just a great showing of how developers are looking at our community and saying, hey, you know what, we can fill up these places. People want to live here, and we will definitely benefit by building here. Freightliner too, I agree, that's just a great business. That is exactly the size of business that it would works well in our community. It's a professional business, highly trained, but just a couple of highlights again. So the total number, or total value of permits is $10.48 million, almost 10.5. We've got almost 3.3 million in residential, and just under 7.2 in commercial, industrial, schools, that kind of stuff. So, it just goes to show you commercial business in Steinbach is alive and well, and it's really great to see the large percentage. Last year we saw so many single-family dwellings, like so much residential RMD, and now it's kind of changing the tide, and we're seeing a lot more industrial, a lot more commercial, and I think there's an ebb and flow, and I think one follows the other, and that's just how it is. You need businesses, then you need homes, and I think that they work together in our community. But this is really exciting. For a year to date, we are just under $20.2 million in year to date. We're having a fantastic year, and council, I've been talking to developers, I've been talking to businesses that are looking at Steinbach, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more development this year yet. I think this is actually this is quite exciting, but I'm expecting more for this year. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 9H, we have bylaw 2171. It's the 20.
Business licenses.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. 9G, business licenses. That's on page 17. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments? Call for the question. All those in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Okay, now we're at 9H. Bylaw 2171. It is the 2021 Realty and Education Tax Levy. We're going to be doing second and third reading. It starts on page 18. Mr. Wharton, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, this bylaw 2171 is the city's 2021 Realty and Education Tax Levy bylaw. Council did give this bylaw first reading on May 4th, 2021. The mill rate proposed for 2021 is the same as the previous year at 13.7 mils. Recommendation that council proceed with second and third reading.
Okay, council. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Swagstra, second by Councillor Penner. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our budget and tax levy looked good at the previous meeting, and it still looks good now, so let's give it second reading.
Anything further? Anything further of council? Anything closing?
Nope.
Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, council will go directly into third reading, looking for a motion. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments?
No comments.
Any further?
Still looks good.
Nothing further of council?
Look carefully.
We'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We got 9I, this is bylaw 2172. This is the 2021 Business Tax Levy. We'll be doing second and third reading again tonight. Mr. Workning, could you please introduce this file?
Not much else to add, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw 2172 is the business tax levy bylaw proposed to be at a rate of 0.5%, which is the same as last year. Recommendation to give second and third reading.
Okay, council, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hiebert, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments, Councillor Hiebert?
Mr. Mayor, this comes before council every year, and it's just what we have to do our business with our business community.
Anything further, Councillor Penner?
No.
Anything further of council? Anything closing? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We'll go right into third reading, looking for a motion for third reading. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hiebert. Any comments?
No further comments.
Okay, we'll go right into the question. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 9J, we've got bylaw 2174. This is rezoning 107 First Street. This will be first reading, council. Mr. Workington, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, this is an application received for the property at 107 First Street under bylaw 2174 is an application to rezone the property from RLD, residential low density, to RMD, residential medium density. Recommendation is for council to give this bylaw first reading, and that would allow a public hearing to be scheduled for further consideration.
Thank you, council. Councillor Siemens.
Motion to approve.
And second by Councillor Penner. Go ahead, Councillor Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is first reading. If approved, it would go to a public hearing for second reading. First Street has quite a bit of multifamily development on it already, especially on the north side, and it's also part of our community plan. But in order to get to a public hearing, we need to approve first reading.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Anything further of council? Anything closing? Okay. Council will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We've got, we'll go to 9K. This is bylaw 2175, zoning bylaw 2100, amendment first reading. It's on page 39 of your package. And Mr. Workman, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this bylaw 2175 is a proposed amendment to the city's zoning bylaw 2100. This one is not a property rezoning. However, it is an application to request the allowance of advertising signs as a conditional use to be permitted within the M1 light industrial zone. Presently, advertising signs are not permitted at all within that particular zone. So again, recommendation is to give this bylaw first reading, and that would allow a public hearing to be scheduled by June 15th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Workentine. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra,
I'll make the motion for first reading.
second by Councillor Penner. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we all recognize that advertising and how advertising is done has changed over a number of years. We're seeing an increased amount of third-party advertising signs, and one of the things that our zoning bylaw says is that you cannot have that type of advertising in the light industrial zone, the M1. And I think that it's reasonable to ask the question of, should we at least have a condition, should there be an option of a conditional use? Because right now, in our zoning bylaw, it doesn't allow that at all. If this were to go ahead, then it would allow that type of advertising there if council approves it. So this is first reading. If we approve this, it would schedule a public hearing and we could hear from the public at that time. But again, recognizing how much advertising has changed and that advertising is a fact of life, it seems like a fairly straightforward change, and but we'll certainly see if there's any comments from the public at the hearing.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Penner?
Nothing further.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing? No. Okay, council, call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we've got 9L. We've got the minor subdivisions from on December 11th, 2020 to April 30th, 2021. They're on page 45, and there's a motion at the end or at the bottom of page 35 to approve these minor subdivisions. Council, we're looking for a motion. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Penner. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are minor subdivisions that we allow the staff to make decisions when it's a minor issue within the planning and zoning department, and these are the ones that they have made on our behalf, and this motion now will accept the decisions that they have made.
Anything further, Councillor Penner? Anything further, Council? Anything in closing? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Number 10, council question period. Council, are there any questions of council? Okay, seeing none. We've got the 11A correspondence and petitions, the arm of Lac du Bonnet, the 2021 Eastern District Municipal Golf Tournament. Would you like to proceed? Take it as information? Okay. There's no other business. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hiebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. The next regular council meeting is Tuesday, June 1st, 2021 at 7:30. Thank you.